Hi there, I'm Miss Sarah, and today I'm going to show you how you can make a miniature scroll of your own. And you can have your scroll going either vertically or horizontally. It's up to you. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is figure out whether you plan on drawing and writing your own scroll just on a piece of paper, or whether you're going to use a pre-prepared image. If you are going to use a pre-prepared image, be sure that you trim it so that it is going to fit on, so that there is extra space at the top and at the bottom. What's going to happen is we are going to eventually roll this on up most of the way and glue it in place. So be sure that you leave a little extra on both of those ends. However, you don't want extra this direction because it's going to look weird. But you can always trim it later if need be. Based on how long and how wide the strip of paper that you decide that you're going to use for your scroll is going to be, you are then going to use your toothpicks accordingly. So if you have a much wider piece of paper like this one here, you might not even need to trim your toothpick at all. You might go, you know what, I'm okay with this much of it sticking out on both ends. I'm good. I'm going to leave my toothpick as is. And at that point, you're just going to either hot glue or glue dot your toothpick to one end of your scroll. However, if in contrast to this, you have a much smaller piece like so, that's not going to work. If you hold your toothpick up here, you're going to notice it looks like that's a little much. I mean, maybe you want it like that, and that's okay too. But if you decide that you don't, what you're going to do is you're going to go in with a pair of scissors and carefully snip on this both ends off. And what you can do is take your full size toothpick, hold it up to here and go, okay, if I want, how much do I want one end to stick out? Let's say I want about this much to be sticking out on both ends. So I'm going to go, all right, there's about my half mark. I will go on in, I'll mark that with a pencil. Then I will carefully snip right along that line. And I say carefully because if you aren't careful, part of your toothpick is going to go boom, and the next thing you know, you're going to be hunting around your home, on the floor, on the ceiling, looking for that little piece of toothpick. Once I have that piece cut off, then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. When you have your two toothpick pieces, you're then going to double check them against the width of your scroll. And I would suggest that you test that towards the center because that's less likely to curl upwards. And let's see, yeah, I'd say that looks about good. And doesn't have to be perfect. So if you picked up one of our kits, you should have a couple of glue dots on a piece of parchment paper or with just the backing of this folded around towards it. What you're going to do now is peel one of your little glue dots off. And you are going to take your two pieces of the toothpick and you are going to fasten it so that both pieces align. And you don't want to set this down on a hard surface unless it has wax paper down or something, because otherwise you're going to end up with your glue dot attached to the table. Not good times. So as you can see here, I sort of have them aligned. Oop, they're already falling apart. I'm going to double check, is this roughly where I want it? Yes, it is. So now all I'm going to do is carefully roll over this little bit and ta-da! A little bit broken, but it'll do. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my slip of paper and I'm going to attach this to one end. And once again, if you are doing this with a larger piece or you just are fine with having more of the ends sticking out, you're going to do the exact same thing in the sense that you're going to wrap your glue dot around, or if you aren't working with glue dots, your bit of hot glue, and then press it firmly to there. Actually, honestly, if you're working with hot glue, you're better off just piping a line of hot glue directly on the paper. But with this works better. So I'm going to line this up cautiously so that I have roughly equal sides sticking out. Yeah, that looks about even to me. And now I'm just going to carefully roll it over a little bit. And ta-da! We have the very beginning of one end of our scroll in place. There we are. You can see I'm sort of already starting to roll it a little. What we are going to do now is we are going to take our image and we are in fact going to paste it on here towards the center because we want it to be a roughly equal amount on both ends of this scroll. So once again, if you don't, that's okay. Maybe your scroll is partway through being opened. So I'm going to take my glue stick, and you certainly can use glue dots or hot glue here if you would prefer, but I think it is easier to just use the old-fashioned glue stick. You will notice I am just sticking glue on the back of here. Alright, so you'll see I have some glue on one side of this paper. I'm going to take this and I'm going to figure out roughly where the center is. And I am just going to press it in and I'm going to smooth it on down. Alright. And there is a little time before it sets too much that you can go on in there and scoot it around some, so that's just what I'm doing. And if it doesn't line up perfectly, it doesn't line up perfectly. That is all right. There we are. What I'm going to do is, because this does not line up perfectly right here up at the top, I was a little bit uneven. What I might end up doing is ensuring that as I roll this end up, I go a little bit past where that is uneven. And that's actually also going to make this look a little bit more realistic if I go a little bit further. And there we are. You'll see it's all nice and neatly rolled. And what we can certainly do if we want is we can go in with a little bit of our glue or with a glue dot and just add a little bit along this so that as we roll it, it will stay in place. Once again, up to you. Maybe you want to be able to partially unroll and re-roll your scroll, especially if you are doing your own writing and drawing of your scroll. And therefore, you can cover the entire thing as opposed to if you just have a little printout like me. So I'm going to just have a little glue and I'm now going to gently roll up over that. There we go. And now I'm going to take my pieces and do the same thing on this opposite end. So I'm going to get out a glue dot. I'm going to make sure that these actually, first, before I get out the glue dot, I'm going to double check. Do these stick out about the same amount as my top ones? I think this might stick out a little bit more than my top ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a pair of scissors, and what I'm going to do is carefully over the trash can cut off just a little bit of this end on this side, and then that bit will go directly into the trash can, and I will still be holding on to the pointed end so it doesn't fly away. So 1 second, I am back. I have trimmed this down a little bit further. Now let's test this out. Oh good, yeah, that looks a lot better. So I'm now going to go in with my glue dot, peel it off of my paper, and I'm going to just do the exact same thing I did before, where I am going to line these up, roll the glue dot around them, and set it down on this end. See, there we go. And Now I'm just going to take this and I am going to roll it up a little. And I'm going to now go on in with my glue stick, put a little glue there, and roll it up further. And if I wanted to, I could be a lot more thorough on the sides, but since I don't plan to play around with this particular one a ton, I don't think it needs a lot of glue. Of course, watch me say that and it'll unravel partway through this video. So, carefully rolling up this little scroll, making sure that I keep it relatively even. And I'm gonna stick a little more glue there. And haha! You'll notice that I now have one that is relatively rolled up on both sides. Now what I'm actually going to do is I am going to roll it further very gently, because I'm not planning on having it all the way shut all the time, but it's nice if it looks like it could be open or shut all the way. And there we go. Oh, there we are. Here's my scroll all the way closed if I wanted it like that, which I don't. I want it open a little bit. And there we go. All right, so time for the last step. Once you have your scroll more or less where you want it, now you are going to get your 4 gold beads and you're just going to slide them onto the toothpick. And once again, gold beads aren't necessary. This certainly could be a scroll just as is, but I think it looks a lot nicer with something on the ends helping cover it. And if you do not have any sort of beads to use, that's fine. What you could always do is if you owned any hot glue, you could do a little hot glue bump and then paint that hot glue bump to create sort of little ornaments on the handles. Or you could paint the handles entirely if you didn't want them to look like they were wood. So there are some options. There are some options. And let's see. I've got 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And ta-da! Dun, 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 dun. A declaration from the library! And you have your very own miniature scroll. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy making your scroll. If you have any questions, please drop by Youth Services and ask for Miss Sarah. Or you can always leave any questions you have in the comments, and we'll do our best to help out from there. Have a good one, guys.